The night Amelia came crawling back after ditching me for some perceived league issue was something else. Still gets to me even now. I'm 28, small-town Midwest bred, and this story's been simmering inside me for years. Time to let it out, I guess. It's about Amelia, my ex, and how it all fell apart. Gotta rewind to high school to start. Sophomore year, that's when I met her. Amelia wasn't like the other girls, the ones screaming for attention. Quiet, kept to herself mostly. But get her talking? Man, she'd light up. Like a firework display of dreams all bursting to get out. Publishing, big city life, working with books, maybe even writing one herself someday. Hooked, plain and simple. Me? Ambition wasn't exactly my middle name back then. I wasn't failing or anything, but I didn't have Amelia's roadmap either. I was the fix-it guy. Something broke in shop class? Teacher called me. Friend's parents had a leaky faucet? I was there with the wrench. Junior year, it clicked. I could make a living out of this. So, while everyone else sweated prom dates and SAT scores, I was building a small plumbing business. Senior year? Amelia and I were glued together. Prom, cheesy rom-coms in my folks' basement, hours talking about everything. We just clicked. She was my first everything, kiss, love, real heartbreak too, but we'll get to that part. Amelia got into a top-tier university. Proud doesn't even cover it. Still see her that day the acceptance letter came. Sprinting to my house, waving that envelope like it was solid gold. Hugged her so hard I thought I'd crack a rib. That was Amelia, though, always aiming high, always pushing. When she left for school, I didn't see it as the end. Just the next chapter. I kept plugging away at the plumbing. Doing all right by then. Nothing fancy, but the money was steady. Figured if she was chasing her dreams, the least I could do was make sure she didn't have to worry about rent or textbooks. So that's what I did. Helped with her rent, sent money for books, even surprised her with care packages during finals. 4-hour drives to her dorm just to spend a weekend. Easy? Hell no. Worth it? At the time, I thought so. She was my girl and I wanted to smooth the road for her so she could focus on her studies. I'll be honest, there were times it felt lopsided. Amelia was swamped with classes, internships, networking events. I got it. But sometimes when I called or texted, it felt like I was crashing some VIP party. Sorry, been so swamped, or we'll talk later. Okay. Later didn't always happen. But when we were together, it was like no time had passed. Campus walks, late-night talks in her tiny apartment, those were the moments that kept me going. Graduation came and Amelia snagged a job at a well-known publishing house. Not her dream job, not yet. No editing bestsellers or writing her own novel, but it was a foot in the door. She was buzzing and I was buzzing for her. Thought we cleared the hurdles. Time to build something real. My plumbing business? Better than ever. Expanded, hired a couple of guys, even considering a second location. I felt good about the future, about us. I took pride in what I'd accomplished, even though my job didn't come with a fancy title or a corner office. Amelia used to playfully call me CEO of Pipes, and I loved that she understood the humor in it. For a good while, life was good. I continued to support her in every way I could. Whenever she needed help, I made sure she had the money. If she was swamped with a project at work, I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout so she wouldn't have to worry about cooking. On weekends, we'd go on short trips or just relax at home, binge-watching whatever show had caught our attention. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was our life, and it worked. But looking back, there were hints that things weren't as stable as I believed. Her job seemed to consume her entire existence. She was passionate about her work, but it felt like she was constantly striving to prove her worth to her boss, her colleagues, maybe even herself. I'd encourage her to slow down, to take a break, but she'd respond with something like, "You don't understand. You have to hustle in this industry." I tried to be understanding, but sometimes it felt like we were growing apart. I didn't want to admit it to myself, figuring that every couple goes through difficult periods and we'd get through ours as well. After all, we'd been together since childhood. If anyone could make it work, it would be us. At least, that's what I believed before Liz entered the picture. Liz was one of Amelia's coworkers, and initially, she seemed all right. Amelia would mention her occasionally, saying things like, "Liz says she's jealous of how supportive you are," or, "Liz thinks it's sweet that you bring me lunch when I'm too busy to leave the office." I didn't pay much attention to it. It's normal for people to talk about their relationships at work, right? But Liz wasn't just talking, she was subtly planting seeds of doubt. The first time I felt uneasy was when Amelia recounted a casual conversation they had during lunch. Apparently, Liz had said, "You're so lucky your boyfriend supports you in pursuing your dreams. Most guys would feel threatened by a woman with ambition." It sounded like a compliment at first, but then Amelia added that Liz had continued, "Most guys like that are secretly controlling." She then asked if I ever held money over Amelia's head. I brushed it off at the time because it was absurd. I'd never made Amelia feel like she owed me anything. If anything, I'd always encouraged her to focus on her own goals and let me handle the financial responsibilities. But I could tell Liz's words had stuck in Amelia's mind because she started insisting on paying for small things here and there, like coffee or gas money when we went on a trip. It wasn't a significant issue, but it felt like the dynamic between us was changing. Then came the criticisms, subtle at first, then more frequent. Liz seemed to find fault with everything I did, regardless of how thoughtful or kind my intentions were. One day, I surprised Amelia at work with her favorite sushi because she'd mentioned skipping lunch to finish an assignment. She texted me later to thank me, but then added, "Liz said it was sweet, but she thought it was weird you didn't ask what I wanted first." I was confused. I brought her the exact order she always got from her favorite spot. Why would I need to ask? Another time, Amelia and I went out for a nice dinner to celebrate her first promotion. We were having a great time until she mentioned, "Liz thinks you should have let me pick the place. She says you always take control of things like that." I'd chosen the restaurant because it was a place she'd been wanting to try for months, but suddenly it felt like even doing something nice could be twisted into a flaw. Liz didn't limit her comments to my gestures. She had plenty to say about my job as well. One night, I was fixing a clogged sink in Amelia's apartment when she casually mentioned, "Liz asked what you did for work today." When I told her that I owned a plumbing business, Amelia recounted Liz's response, "Oh, that's cute." Cute? Owning a business isn't cute. It's hard work and I built it from scratch. But that wasn't even the worst part. Amelia then said that Liz had asked if I ever wished she did something more polished, like work in an office. That one stung. I knew I wasn't some high-powered executive, but I'd always been proud of what I did. My business paid the bills and it was honest work. Amelia brushed it off at first. "Liz just doesn't pull any punches, you know? Don't let it get to you." But I saw the subtle shift in Amelia after those conversations. Liz's comments were insidious, like a slow-acting poison. Suddenly, Amelia was throwing out these curveball questions, things that just didn't sound like her. "Do you ever see yourself scaling up the business, really making something huge out of it? Or have you considered taking some management courses? It might give you a different perspective." On their own, those questions wouldn't have bothered me, but with Liz constantly in her ear, they felt like veiled criticisms. It wasn't just the questions either. Liz had a way of insinuating herself into our lives even when I wasn't around. Amelia told me about a work event where everyone brought their significant other. I couldn't make it because I was dealing with a flooded basement at one of my clients' houses. When Amelia explained why I wasn't there, Liz apparently said, "That's always the problem with guys like that. Work always comes first, no matter what." Amelia said she defended me, but the damage was done. A few days later, Amelia asked, "Do you think you'll always be dealing with these kinds of emergencies? What happens when we have kids?" The real problem with Liz wasn't just what she said, but the way she positioned herself as this all-knowing advisor. Whenever Amelia and I had even the smallest disagreement, Liz would swoop in with her unsolicited 2 cents. If I was slow to text Amelia back, Liz would be all over it. That's a major red flag. Communication is everything. If I was planning any kind of surprise for Amelia, Liz would chime in, "Don't you wish he'd asked for your opinion more?" It felt like she couldn't stand the idea of us being happy, or at least happy without her approval. One particularly blatant example was when I helped Amelia move into her new place. I spent the entire weekend lugging boxes, building furniture, the works. Amelia thanked me, of course, but later she mentioned, "Liz said it's great that you're so helpful, but she thinks it's ridiculous that we didn't hire movers." Apparently, Liz didn't think it was worth risking my back over a few boxes. I was dumbfounded. Who criticizes someone for helping their girlfriend move? What really bothered me was how Amelia started questioning everything. She'd ask things like, "Do you think we're too different? Maybe Liz is right." Or, "Liz says relationships like ours only last so long." I kept trying to reassure her, reminding her of everything we'd built together, but the more I tried to reinforce our bond, the more Liz seemed determined to tear it apart. It's incredible how much power Liz wielded over our relationship. I never wanted to believe someone could be so deliberately destructive, but Liz wasn't just some overly opinionated friend. She was like a snake, and I didn't realize how poisonous she was until it was almost too late. Then came the night. The night I was planning to propose. Everything was supposed to change for the better. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Amelia, but instead it was the night everything blew up in my face. I'd been with Amelia since high school, a decade of ups and downs. I never doubted what we had, so I decided it was time to take that next step. It would assuage some of her fears and doubt that had been building up over the last few weeks. I'd had the ring for a month. It wasn't just some generic, flashy piece of jewelry. It was custom, thoughtfully designed. It had both our birthstones forming a heart in the center, framed by small diamonds. I even left room to add stones later for when we had kids. I'd commissioned a custom box with 2 small buttons, one that lit up yes and another for no. Corny maybe, but it felt like us. I wanted her to see how much thought I'd put into it, how carefully I'd planned our future. I picked her up that night for dinner at a little Italian place she'd been wanting to try. I'd reserved a quiet corner table, thinking it would be the perfect spot. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say 100 times in my head. The night started off all right. Amelia looked stunning, as always, wearing an emerald dress that matched her eyes. We talked about her job, my business, the usual. For a while, it felt like things were back to normal, but there was something off about her. She was quieter than usual, distant, like her mind was a million miles away. Halfway through the meal, I reached into my pocket, feeling for the small box. My palms were sweating and my heart was pounding in my chest. I was just about to pull it out when she cleared her throat and said, "I need to talk to you about something." I froze, my hand still in my pocket. "Sure," I managed, trying to keep my voice from cracking. She wouldn't look at me, just stared intently at her plate. Then, quietly, "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about where we're going. And I think we need to take a break." I was completely blindsided. Where the hell did that come from? A break? What are you talking about? I finally asked. She finally lifted her head and I could see the shimmer of tears already gathering in her eyes. "I don't know. I just don't know if this is working anymore. I feel like we've been growing apart. I need some time to figure out what I really want." She hesitated for a moment, like she was rehearsing the next line. "Liz says we're just not a good match. She thinks I'm holding myself back by being with you." Her words hit me hard, right in the gut. For a second, all the air seemed to leave my lungs and I couldn't speak. This was Amelia. The woman I'd pictured growing old with. The woman I was planning to ask to marry me tonight. And she was telling me she wasn't sure about me anymore. Slowly, carefully, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet box. I didn't open it, just held it in my hand, letting her see it. "Do you see this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her eyes widened slightly as she recognized the shape of the box. "Is that—" "Yeah," I said, the word catching in my throat. "This is the ring I was going to give you tonight. I was going to ask you to marry me, Amelia, to spend the rest of your life with me. But now—" I shook my head, feeling a wave of disappointment wash over me. "You don't deserve this." She started to say something, some kind of protest, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "No, just let me finish. I've spent the last few years supporting you, believing in you, building a future for us. And this is how you repay me? By dropping this vague break bullshit on me over dinner? Thank God you showed me your true colors before we got in too deep." Her face crumpled and tears began to stream down her cheeks, but I didn't feel the pang of sympathy I normally would. I stood up abruptly, shoved the box back into my pocket, and grabbed my jacket. "You want a break?" I said, looking her straight in the eye. "Fine. But don't come crawling back to me when you realize what you've thrown away." I turned and walked out, leaving her sitting there alone at the table. The drive home was a complete blur. My mind was racing, replaying every moment of our relationship, trying to figure out where things had started to unravel. How could she do this to me? After everything I'd sacrificed, everything we'd been through together? I kept telling myself that I'd done the right thing by walking away, by standing my ground. I'd given her everything I had to offer, and if that wasn't enough, then that was her loss. I wasn't going to beg or chase after her. I knew what I was worth, and I wasn't about to settle for someone who couldn't see it. I threw the ring on the kitchen counter. Not a reminder of her, but a reminder of what I deserved, a partner who appreciated me, believed in me, and wouldn't toss everything aside on a whim. I did the one thing you shouldn't do in that situation. I opened Instagram. I was expecting the usual memes and food pics, but the first thing I saw was Liz's story. A video of a party. At first, it was just people drinking, dancing, and laughing. And then I saw Amelia. She was draped all over some random guy, and he had his arm around her waist, pulling her close like they were more than just friends. The look on her face made my stomach churn. But then I saw I'd been tagged. She hadn't posted it publicly, just used the feature in Instagram where the other person knows they've been tagged. She wanted to make sure I saw it without letting anyone else know. I just sat there stunned. I couldn't process what my eyes were showing me. This was her, the same woman who, just a few hours prior, had told me she needed space to figure things out, and now she was all over some random dude. It felt like the ink on our breakup agreement hadn't even dried yet. A surge of anger coursed through me, so potent that it made my hands tremble slightly. It wasn't just about this random guy, or even about the fact that this was happening at some party. It was that Liz was behind it all. Liz, the woman who had spent months systematically undermining my confidence, sowing seeds of doubt in Amelia's mind and tearing down everything I did. Now she was broadcasting this spectacle for me to witness. I was numb, unsure of what to do. I instinctively closed Instagram, tossed my phone onto the couch, and just sat there, staring blankly at the opposite wall. Part of me wanted to immediately call Amelia, confront her, demand an explanation. But I stopped myself. She had made her choice, and now I was being confronted with the raw, unfiltered reality of that choice. A few hours crawled by, each one feeling like an eternity. Then, my phone screen lit up with her name. I initially ignored it, hoping she would just give up. But she persisted, calling 3, 4, then 5 times in quick succession. Finally, more out of morbid curiosity than anything else, I answered. "Hello," I managed, keeping my voice as detached and neutral as possible. "Babe, please, just let me explain," she sobbed, her voice thick with tears. I could hear the unmistakable sound of panic creeping into her tone. I remained silent, giving her space to speak, to dig herself even deeper. "I didn't know Liz would post that," she blurted out between gasps. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything, I swear." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "A mistake? You hooked up with some random guy practically the second we broke up, and you're calling that a mistake, Amelia? That's not a mistake, that's a deliberate, conscious choice." "It wasn't like that," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I was drunk and Liz introduced me to him. I didn't even realize what was happening until..." "Until what?" I interrupted, my voice rising slightly. "Until Liz decided to immortalize it for the entire world to see? You really expect me to believe you had no idea what you were doing?" "She manipulated me," Amelia said, her voice barely a whisper. Hearing her try to shift the blame, to absolve herself of any responsibility, only intensified my anger. "You want to blame Liz now? Fine, go ahead. But you're the one who allowed this to happen. You're the one who decided that the best way to figure things out was to throw yourself at some stranger. That's on you, Amelia, not Liz." Silence hung heavy in the air on the other end of the line. For a moment, I genuinely thought she had hung up. But then I heard her stifle a sob. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words barely audible. "I was stupid, and I don't..." I cut her off again, not wanting to hear any more of her pathetic excuses. "Don't apologize. You don't get to cry and say you're sorry when you clearly knew exactly what you were doing. You made your bed, Amelia. Now lie in it." She started to say something else, but I didn't care. I ended the call and immediately blocked her number. I was in no mood to listen to her justifications, her lies. Every time I pictured her face, the way she tried to twist everything to portray herself as the victim, I felt physically ill. I couldn't even bring myself to be angry at the guy in Liz's story. He was just a stranger, he didn't owe me anything. But Amelia, she was supposed to be my partner, my ride or die. Seeing her act as if our relationship, our history, meant absolutely nothing to her was the final, crushing blow. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts and missed calls from our mutual friends. I guess Amelia had already filled them in on her version of events, or perhaps Liz's little expose had already made its rounds. Either way, I wasn't about to engage in any explanations or justifications. I shut off my phone, turned over, and tried to salvage what little was left of my day. "Okay, I sent out a quick, impersonal message to a few guys, letting them know I was okay but needed some breathing room. I just didn't have the energy to manage anyone else's drama around the whole thing. Honestly, all I wanted was to move on. Has anyone else been through something like this? I keep running the whole thing through my head, wondering if I overreacted, but I can't shake the feeling that it was all deliberate. The way Amelia let Liz poison the well, let her stick her nose into our relationship, then acted like she was a helpless bystander, it pisses me off. And Liz? I don't get people like her. Who actively tries to wreck someone else's life just because? I don't know what the next move is. Part of me feels like the only way to protect my own sanity is to cut them both out of my life completely. Am I wrong for being so cold about it? Or is this just what happens when people finally show their true colors? I'd appreciate any thoughts you guys have. I'll keep you posted if anything else goes down. First off, thanks to everyone for the advice, the support, and even the sarcastic comments on my last post. One of you said something like, "Dude, Liz sounds like she's competing for a worst friend ever award," and I actually laughed, which I hadn't done in weeks. You helped me realize I wasn't being crazy for feeling the way I did, and I appreciate that more than you know. Sorry it's taken me a while to give an update. Life's been a mess lately, balancing work with sorting out my feelings about Amelia and dealing with some unexpected health issues. More on that later. I've been spread pretty thin, but I'm here now, so let's get into it. In the weeks following the breakup, Amelia tried to get back in touch. I got these long, rambling texts, apologies for not knowing what she was thinking, and requests to meet up and talk things through. I ignored her at first, but she kept at it. Eventually, I sent her back a short, blunt message. Amelia, I've already said what I needed to say. You made your choice, and I'm moving on. Please respect that. That should have been the end of it, right? Nope. She'd pop up out of the blue, liking old photos on Instagram or trying to leave comments like, missing this day. I didn't respond to any of it. I'd already wasted too much energy on someone who clearly didn't value me, and I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of knowing she still had access to my life. Now, this is where the story takes a weird turn. About 2 weeks ago, I started feeling off, just constantly tired with these strange dizzy spells that wouldn't go away. I put it down to stress from the whole Amelia/Liz situation, but when I nearly passed out at work, I knew it was time to get checked out. Long story short, it turned out I needed surgery. It wasn't anything super serious or life-threatening, but still not exactly what I wanted to be doing. I wasn't thrilled about it, obviously, but my friends and family were great. My guys at work even picked up some extra shifts so I wouldn't have to worry about things while I recovered. The surgery itself went fine, and I woke up feeling groggy but generally okay. I was still coming out of the anesthesia when I noticed someone sitting by my bed. At first, I thought it was one of my friends or a family member, but no, it was Liz. Picture this, I'm lying there in one of those hideous hospital gowns, barely able to keep my eyes open, and Liz is sitting there like she's my nurse or something. She had this concerned look on her face, like we were best buds and she'd been worried sick. Oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay, she says, leaning forward like we're some kind of couple in a rom-com. I was too out of it to fully process what was happening, but I managed to croak out, "What are you doing here?" She gave me this sweet, innocent smile and said, "I heard you were in the hospital. I just had to come and make sure you were all right." Had to. Liz, the same Liz who'd spent the better part of the last few months trying to destroy my relationship with Amelia. Right? She kept talking, saying things like, "I feel so bad about everything with Amelia. You didn't deserve that. You're such a good guy." Like she didn't know what she had. It was like she was trying to rewrite history, painting herself as the supportive friend who'd always been on my side. At one point, she even reached out to hold my hand. I didn't pull away, mostly because I was too tired to argue, but I could practically see the calculations going on in her head. Lying there, half-conscious in that hospital bed, the truth finally dawned on me. Liz wasn't there because she genuinely cared. No, she saw an opportunity, a chance to capitalize on the situation. All the pieces started falling into place, those subtle jabs at me she'd make to Amelia, the constant stream of criticisms, the way she'd always insert herself between Amelia and me. It was all part of her twisted game. With Amelia out of the picture now, she was trying to slip into my life, filling the void. Funny how clarity arrives when you're trapped in a hospital bed with nothing but your thoughts for company. Liz wasn't just a bad friend or a toxic coworker. She was a master manipulator, calculating, and utterly selfish. She didn't give a damn about me or Amelia. All she cared about was getting what she wanted, consequences be damned. The thing about people like Liz is that they believe they're the smartest person in the room. They think they can manipulate and scheme their way to the top without anyone noticing. But she underestimated me. I've got a plan for Liz, a carefully crafted strategy. I won't reveal too much just yet. I want to ensure it unfolds exactly as I envision it. Let's just say that once I'm fully recovered, she's going to experience what it feels like to be outmaneuvered. So stay tuned, Reddit. I'll share an update when the time is right. Liz might just regret ever setting foot in that hospital room. Thanks again for all the support. Your advice has been incredibly helpful, and honestly, reading your comments has kept me grounded throughout this ordeal. I'll be back soon with another update. Until then, wish me a speedy recovery. First off, wow, the response to my last post was overwhelming. I never anticipated so many of you becoming invested in this whole saga, but here we are. Thank you for all the advice, support, and witty comments. I saw one comment that said, "Liz sounds like the type of person who'd fake being nice to adopt a cat just to post about it on Instagram," and I couldn't agree more. You guys truly understand me. I know many of you were eager to hear about my plan, so buckle up. Things played out almost perfectly, just as I'd hoped, and let me tell you, it was incredibly satisfying. After I was discharged from the hospital and started to feel like myself again, Liz didn't waste any time. She texted me practically every day, starting with these ridiculously casual, just checking in messages, things like, "Hey, hope you're doing okay," or "Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you." Initially, I ignored her. I'm not an idiot, I knew exactly what she was up to. But after a while, I realized that playing along might actually work to my advantage. So I started responding, not excessively, just enough to keep her interested. "Thanks for checking in. I'm doing all right. Appreciate it. Recovery's been slow, but I'm getting there. Liz completely fell for it. Her texts became longer and more personal, filled with things like, "You're such a strong person," and "I don't know how Amelia ever let you go." She even started dropping subtle hints about how she'd always believed I deserved better and how much she admired me. At one point, she even sent me a picture of a casserole she'd made, saying, "I'd love to bring this over if you're up for company." I declined, of course, but it was clear she was trying to weasel her way in. The real turning point occurred about 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital. Liz called me out of the blue, claiming she'd been thinking about me and wanted to hear my voice. I could practically hear her laying it on thick, talking about how worried she'd been during my surgery and how she'd prayed for me. "Thanks, Liz," I said, keeping my tone neutral and noncommittal. "That means a lot." I almost burst out laughing. She didn't care about me, she only cared about winning. But instead of shutting her down, I played along. "Yeah, I guess it has," I replied, playing the part. That single sentence was all it took to set her off. After that, Liz went into overdrive, bombarding me with texts, calling me babe in every message, and even suggesting we hang out soon. The thing about Liz is, she's so predictable it's almost pathetic. She clearly thought she was being subtle, but everything she did just screamed her intentions. It wasn't about me, it was a pure ego play. She wanted to prove she could snag me, just like she tried to wreck things with Amelia. So I decided to play along, let her think she was winning. I started responding to her texts more frequently, tossing in a compliment here and there, and even agreed to meet up. I knew right then that she thought she had me completely hooked. When we finally met, Liz turned on the charm offensive. She kept touching my arm, laughing at every stupid joke I made, and dropping hints about how important honesty and loyalty are in a relationship. Honestly, it was exhausting watching her try so hard, but I played the part. Eventually, things escalated, and yeah, we hooked up. I'm not exactly proud of it, but it was a calculated move in the whole plan. The next morning, I didn't text her back. Or the day after that. Or the day after that. Naturally, Liz started blowing up my phone. "Hey, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Can we talk?" She called me at least a dozen times, left pathetic voicemails, and even sent me a few messages on Instagram. By the end of the week, I had this collection of desperate texts and missed calls from her, all begging for another chance. That's when I made my move. I screenshotted every single text she'd sent, along with a couple of the voicemails where she was practically sobbing about how much she cared about me. Then I sent them to Amelia in one giant dump. No explanation, no message, just the raw screenshots. Once they were delivered, I blocked them both on everything. I know some people are probably thinking, "Dude, that's messed up," but hear me out. Liz had been messing with my life for months, actively trying to destroy my relationship and manipulating everyone around her. By sending those screenshots, I wasn't trying to get Amelia back, nor was I attempting to create drama. I just wanted the truth to surface. Amelia deserved to see Liz for who she truly was and how far she was willing to go to get what she wanted. I wanted Amelia to realize what she'd thrown away our relationship for. And honestly, blocking Liz felt incredible. It felt like I was back in control, like I wasn't just reacting to her chaos. Now, I'm sitting back and watching the fallout. Liz wanted to be the puppet master, but instead, I flipped the script. Amelia and Liz might have to face their own issues now, but I'm officially done with their games. And trust me, Reddit, this isn't the last you'll hear from me. I need a bit to recover from this whole ordeal. I'll give them both some time to process everything, and I'll come back here with an update soon enough. I promised I'd keep you informed, and wow, things escalated quickly. Apparently, my little stunt, sending all of Liz's frantic messages to Amelia, triggered a chain reaction that I couldn't have planned better if I had tried. Here's what I pieced together through the gossip mill. Amelia didn't take the discovery that Liz, her so-called friend, had been scheming behind her back particularly well. She confronted Liz at work, and things apparently went from calm to chaotic in a matter of seconds. From what I've heard, it started with Amelia demanding answers, questioning why Liz had tried to sabotage my relationship and then swoop in after the breakup. Liz, being Liz, tried to play the innocent card. She claimed that I was the one who was pursuing her and that Amelia was overreacting, but Amelia wasn't buying any of it. Someone who works with them told me that the argument became so heated that the manager had to get involved, but it didn't stop there. Apparently, Amelia publicly called Liz out in front of their colleagues, accusing her of being manipulative and of trying to ruin her life. Liz snapped back, and before anyone could intervene, things turned physical. I don't know all the specifics, but I'm sure I'll find them out. I do know it ended with both of them being escorted out of the building by security. They both got canned after everything went down. And truth be told, I can't muster up much sympathy. Liz orchestrated her own downfall, and as for Amelia, well, she's not exactly blameless in this whole mess. She let Liz insinuate herself into what we had, our connection, and by the time Amelia finally woke up to how poisonous Liz really was, the damage was already irreversible. I have no idea what their next move is, but I'm determined to keep my distance, maintain my sanity, and avoid the drama. I finally feel like I can take a proper breath again, like a weight's been lifted. Anyway, that's where things stand for now. Thanks for listening, it's helped to get this off my chest. I'll let you know if there are any further developments, but right now I'm just savoring the quiet. It's been a long time coming. Frankly, I was starting to think I'd run out of stories to tell. I had almost convinced myself that the whole Liz and Amelia circus was finally over, that I could finally just move forward and rebuild my life. But then, of course, people like them don't just fade away quietly. About a week after they were both let go from their jobs, Amelia showed up on my doorstep. She was a wreck. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying, her hair was thrown up in some messy, careless bun like she couldn't even bring herself to make an effort. Liz planted all those seeds of doubt, she said, her voice shaky. She manipulated me into thinking you weren't good enough, but it was all her. I see that now. Please, can we try to fix this? I just stood there, letting her spill her words. The anger had dissipated. I was just done. Exhausted. When she finally ran out of steam, I told her, Amelia, I poured everything I had into us and you just threw it all away. You let someone like Liz tear us apart and now you expect to just waltz back in here? I can't do this anymore. I've moved on, moved past it. She begged, even started crying again, but I stayed firm. I wished her well, genuinely, and then I closed the door. The very next day, as if it were some kind of twisted script, Liz tried her hand. She sent this rambling text message, starting from some random, unknown phone number. It was full of apologies, saying how sorry she was, acknowledging that she'd made some colossal mistakes, but that she was now willing to do absolutely anything it took to make things right between us. I completely ignored it. So, naturally, she showed up uninvited. She was all smiles, with that sickeningly fake sweetness she could turn on and off like a switch. I know I messed up, she began, dripping with insincerity, but I know deep down you still care about me. We could still make this work. I can see that now. I didn't even let her finish her carefully rehearsed speech. I looked her straight in the eye, making sure she understood the gravity of what I was saying, and said, you both made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. Then I simply turned around, walked back into my house, and shut the door in her face. That was the last time I laid eyes on either of them. Since then, life has been peaceful. Genuinely peaceful. My business is actually thriving. I've even expanded, hired a few more people, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been spending more time focusing on myself, on my own happiness. You deserve better than that kind of chaos. Life's finally good and I plan to keep it that way.